Hello, welcome back to Vet Talks. I'm going to talk a little. I'm going to talk about a very touchy topic, and that's toxic leadership. What is toxic leadership? What does it mean when you say the words toxic leadership? Are we talking about leaders that were hard on you? There used to be a time where back in the day, NCOs or drill sergeants used to put hands on you. Is that toxic leadership, or is that just the way that they were brought up in the military, and that's what they use for, you know, they pass it down to the next generation? No, I don't think that's toxic leadership. I think that's just part of how they were taught, and they just they pass it on. So what is toxic leadership? I think toxic leadership is when somebody abuses their power for their own gain. Like there's really nothing, they're not doing it for your benefit, they're not doing it for any other reason. It's because they just want to prove that they have power over you. Now, at different points of my military career, I mean, I've had people, that, I kind of talked about it, when you had, when I was growing up in the 82nd Airborne, and that they would take who you were as a civilian, whittle you down to nothing, and build you back up. I don't look at that as toxic leadership. I just look at it as hardcore leadership. It is what it is, because there was a time where in the 82nd Airborne, when I was there, if you had a problem with if you had a problem with an NCO, I'll give you a perfect example. There was an NCO, and he was a brand new NCO. He was a brand new E5. Now, when I was growing up in the 82nd Airborne, you went to parade rest for E4s. You didn't go to parade rest. I mean, that's where it started. Was you went to parade rest for E4s because the E5s didn't want to deal with the little things, so they would give power to the E4s, and that's the way it would go up. So I was used to learning from a couple of levels upper, and I was an E1, and I was used to that you had to, as you progressed, because when you got to that rank, you would get the same power. It wasn't like it was like some you would never be able to get it. There were times we would run in the woods, and they had these fire breaks. So it's a road that they build in the woods, in the because there's a lot of forests and trees, and there's these roads that they build deliberately, and they're basically that's the ones we're running on, and they go up and down hills, and they don't cut through the they follow the pattern of the ground, whatever. And I remember there was this one time where we were running in formation, and one guy got out of formation, and he wasn't able to keep up with everybody. So he got out, and the rest of the formation's running. He got out, and he started to fall back, and it was an E5. They kept yelling at him, "Get back in formation! Get back in formation!" And it's okay to be yelled at. Just don't ever talk back. That's the key. You can take it. Just don't talk back to an NCO. That was a no. Well, this guy took it upon himself to say, you know what, fuck you. That NCO said, okay, all right, no problem. You wait till we get back. And we had a hardcore first sergeant. He wasn't taking none of that. You were not going to disrespect his NCOs. There was a lot of power in being an NCO. So when he got back, I guess the NCOs got together and they decided to make an example of this guy. Do you know there are certain things you can do you can do as a first sergeant? There are certain things you can do with the support of the commander. There are certain things you can do to make an example out of a soldier. They sent that soldier to prison for 30 days because they had that power. Sent him for 30 days and to do hard labor. to break rocks, big rocks, and make them into little rocks. And when he came back, he was so demoralized. He was so demoralized that he went AWOL. But the example worked. We knew, do not cross the NCO. Just don't do it. The power was in the NCO. And there was a time where that's where the power was. It was in the NCO. And at some point, it ended up changing, and then officers started taking away the power from the NCOs, and all the power was in the officers. Well, we used to have this saying. If somebody called you sir, we used to say, oh, no, don't call me sir, I work for a living. Because we looked at officers different. Officers are very much, they got their position because they went to school. That's how they got their position. They went to school, and that's how they were able to get that rank. NCOs, we move up the rank. Now, if you had an officer that used to be an NCO and he switched over, you gave that officer a lot of credit because he understands how it was. He understands the way it was. Now, back to how we handle things in the 82nd. If you had a problem with an NCO and we went to the field, we're going to go to the field, and there's going to be a moment, and this is, like I said, this is not a common occurrence. This is something that it was the way when I grew up in the 82nd. There was one particular NCO, he just got his E5, and he was, I don't know, he did something that just rubbed me wrong. He yelled, the way he talked to me was very disrespectful. And I took, mostly, you're used to taking stuff. You can't dish it back. Well, we went to the field, and it was late at night. And they said, okay, hey, everybody, come over here. We're going to have a meeting. And I remember they put a big circle. And they said, is there anybody here that has a grievance with somebody else? And right away, hey, me. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a grievance. And you're able to call out that person. I got a grievance with that guy. I got a grievance with you. We would meet in the middle. And in basic training, they teach you this one particular combat technique. It's where you grab your opponent by the shirt. You grab them like this. You make sure you get a good hold. And then you take one of your feet, and usually basically it's gonna be your right foot. You take your foot and you shove it in his chest. So you have him, and you bring your foot up, and you're putting your foot right in your chest, which means you're only on one foot, and you pull him towards you. And you're falling backwards. And as you're falling backwards, because remember, you got your foot in his chest, you're pulling him, and there's nothing he can do, because at this point, you're making him carry your entire body, and you're falling backwards. And with that foot that you have on him, you're falling, and then you wait till your back hits the ground. So you're pulling him on you, and when your back hits the ground with the foot that you have on his chest, you kick forward as hard as you can, and it ends up flipping him. But you maintain hold of him. So as he flips, it flips you, and you end up on top of him. And then I did it, flipped him over, got him in that chokehold, and you choke him out until he taps out, which he did real quickly. But at that point, we're good. You disrespected me, and now I disrespected you in front of everybody, and don't ever do that again. If you're going to bark at me, you bark at me. But you better do it with a reason, and don't do it just because you want to abuse your power. So you learn a lesson. Okay. Let's go forward. I'm in Iraq. I got this lieutenant. and we have our job positions, right? We're living off from base. We're living at this house we took over, and the lieutenant, we have rotations. It's my turn to go back to the main base, and he told me, no, you're gonna stay here. You're gonna stay here I'm not gonna let you rotate back. He's disrespecting me. He's disrespecting me. So I have a little heart-to-heart talk with him. Hey, sir, look, you know what? This is my job. It's your job. I'm trying to tell him, look, sir, we're supposed to help each other. We're not fighting each other. Well, come to find out, the reason why he wanted to go to Bay is because he wanted to watch March Madness, whatever, some college games. And because the XO used to be a college buddy of his, not only is he mad, but the XO's mad. Okay. So my NCO is NCOER. It's your evaluation. Every year you have to have an evaluation. So I'm back at the main base, and those two yahoos are over at the place, and they decide they're going to do my NCOER. So then they both get there, and they decide that they're going to talk bad about me, and how they're going to screw me over on my NCOER, but they're doing it in front of some soldiers. Some soldiers are hearing it, and then later on, the soldiers tell me, you know what? These guys are talking about, these two, yahoos are talking about how they're going to screw you over in your NCOER. Okay. I get the NCOER, and it's garbage. It is straight up garbage. You know what? NCOERs are supposed to be a reflection of the actual job, but these guys were in a vendetta because they didn't get to watch their March Madness together. I guess they were just so buddies that, they wanted to watch it together, and I must have ruined that, party. So they're gonna get some revenge on me. So what do I do with it? I talked a little bit about my other ones. I stew over the idea, do I just take it? And it brings it back to when I was disrespected as a little private with that one NCO. Okay, it's time to go to the field. Let's go to the field. You know what? You want to test the waters? Okay, we're going to go to the field. So I go to Sergeant Major with it. Sergeant Major, this is what happened. I bring him the two sworn statements from the two soldiers that saw it, that witnessed it. They end up giving the XO a written reprimand for it. Sergeant Major says, you know what? You don't have to take that NCOER. It's a garbage NCOER. I'll get somebody else to write you a legitimate NCOER. I said, no, Sergeant Major, you know what? Keep it the way it is. Even though it's going to ruin my career, keep it the way it is. Because I never want to forget why it is I didn't get, I don't want to forget what happened. You're trying to smooth it over. You're trying to make it like it didn't happen. But no, I don't want to forget. So I left that NCOER. I left it there. I ain't chasing a title. I'm not chasing some, I got to get all this. What? No. If you disrespect me, fine. Fast forward. I'm having to, I'm here at Fort Dix, where it's a training center and stuff like that, and there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity that they need some help with the gym. And I've always, said, man, if I ever get out of the Army, I want to work at the gym. That's what, it's an easy peasy job. So I'm happy to help them out. I'm still in the Army, but I'm happy to help out the gym, and no problem. Okay, I'll help out the gym. Wouldn't you know it, that somehow, some way, that toxic leadership XO walks through the door. After all these years, he walks in the door and he sees me and he remembers how he disrespected me. And wouldn't you know it, I never saw him again. And it's one of those things in life. If you ever disrespect me, and if I ever see you in the street again, If I ever saw him on the side of the road, think I'm going to help him out? No, heck no, because I'm going to remember how you disrespected me. Karma will always come back around. Toxic leadership is real. There are a lot of people out there that are suffering because of these toxic leadership. And I wish at some point that the NCOs had took back the power we used to have back in the day. But unfortunately, I haven't seen it happen. It never happened in my career. It never happened during the 20 years I was in there. You know, it is what it is. And it's hard to fight. So, you know what? If you ever find yourself out there and you're being disrespected and it's not a legitimate, in other words, if you have toxic leadership, never be afraid to confront it. Never be afraid to bring it out. Never be afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to make a stand. Because sometimes that's what it takes. When you got the ring and they tell you, is there anybody here that has a grievance? Don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, yeah, I do. And it's with that guy. With that being said, I'll talk to y'all later.